is the view from halfway down, an episode-by-episode analysis of the Netflix original series, Bojack Horseman.
That's Sebastian. They're the Bojack Horseman expert.
And that's Alexandra. They're the expert on being pretentious.
We try to avoid character and plot spoilers on this show, but minor things are bound to slip by. And of course, this is going to contain major spoilers up to the current episode, episode 6. What are we talking about today?
Today is our A story is a D story, season 1, episode 6. I really like this episode. I think it's pretty solid.
Sebastian, you do sound a little bit different than you do normally. Why is that?
Well, you know, we have a small surprise in store for this episode. Both Alexandra and I have decided to get drunk before the episode.
Why do you sound so sad? You're like we've succumbed to our darker urges, and now we're drunk once again. I'm gonna have to go back to AA and tell them to turn in my 30-day chip.
AA is recording a Bojack Horseman podcast. This is like an assignment actually from my sponsor.
Do you think that we could have like a whole journey of that on our show? Like, we got how many seasons of Bojack is there? 6, 7?
6, I think.
So we got 6 seasons to become alcoholics and then become recovering alcoholics. I mean, I think that would be a good journey.
Okay.
Here on Doof Media, everyone loves the
meta
narrative.
This is offensive.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, but also it's also kind of real, so it's fine.
Well, I think that really, right now, we're just trying to get in the headspace of Sir Bojack Horseman.
Of Sir Bojack Horseman. We just really want to
plan is to just sporadically be drunk on the show. This is what Bojack would do if he was on a podcast.
In loving memory, we're going to do it for him.
Yeah, WWBJD. What would blowjobs do?
That wasn't good. That was terrible. That was just bad.
What would Bojack do?
Is that what you meant? Is that what you meant to? Okay. What would BJ
I knew
do?
what I was saying. It wasn't like a subconscious issue. But
Sebastian gets a lot more clever when they're drunk. So
okay. The only time I ever won a Kahoot was whenever I was absolutely wasted in high school. It was like 8 a.m.
Wait, hold on.
And I won a math Kahoot, which is crazy because that's my worst subject.
Sebastian.
I literally never got past freshman math, but I won that math Kahoot.
Why were you drunk at 8 a.m. in math class?
For fun? Are you kidding
Kahoot,
me?
apparently.
Do you realize? Okay, I was a junior in freshman math. So I just got to go in this freshman math class wasted at 8 a.m. and play this Kahoot. It was so fucking fun.
Okay.
It was a great time.
Do you want to just real quick give people context for why you were a junior and freshman level math? Because I feel like without any context, that just kind of sounds lame. But
yeah. It's because I wasn't in school for a while. So I got put in public. I finally started going to school whenever I was in junior year, and they put me in junior math, but my math teacher pulled me aside and asked, "Where on earth did you come from?" And I was like, "Bro, the slums of Tejas." And she was like, "All right, well, we're gonna throw you into the trenches with these freshmen."
These fish.
So yeah.
Were you the coolest kid in the class?
Definitely not.
I was the coolest kid in my geometry course, which was mostly freshman while I was a sophomore because I failed geometry the first time I took it. So when I retook it with the same teacher, it was so embarrassing walking back in. We're like, "Hey, Miss Daughtery. Hey."
Shout out to Miss Daughtery.
Yeah. No, she was cool.
Yeah, I was definitely not the coolest. The coolest person in that class actually was probably my friend. That's where I met my friend Max, actually, and she was a freshman at the time, and she was probably the coolest person there. I would think.
That's nice.
Not just to be, but objectively.
Aw, That's cute. So, well, I don't know. I feel like there is a cool factor. I mean, a really like bad cool factor to being drunk at 8 a.m. during your math class.
Yeah, as a high schooler, that's cool.
Yeah, real quick, like, for those who don't know, because Kahoot is something that came out, and we're going to start the podcast in a second. Sorry. Kahoot is something that came out while we were in high school. And it's essentially just like a game quiz thing for classes. Like everyone joins in on their phones, and then it shows a question, and then whoever, right, if you hit it faster, you get extra points, I think.
Yeah,
and some other things, basically.
They're like graded in order of who hits it first. Anyways, apart from explaining I don't know how we got to the point where we were explaining the rules of Kahoot before we've even started on the analysis of the show.
I feel like there's episodes not going to have the
I have a lot to say about it.
Really? Yeah. I was going to say, because the content of it, I feel like, is quite simple. I feel like there's only like 2 major story beats, maybe 3 or 4 or something.
That's true, but I think the main story beat is really interesting. Okay. But yeah, I feel like we should probably start.
Okay, what's the name of the episode again? Once more.
It is
for my ears.
Our A story is a D story.
It's pretty funny. I wonder why. I feel like the pun's got to be deeper than just like it's a story about a D. Like,
nah.
You think that's it? It's just
Okay,
that's kind of lame. I'll be honest. They could have done better with that. So let's just jump in real quick. We are coming right off the last episode. Is it really interesting how chronological the show is sometimes? Like when I was first watching it, I did not realize how much is literally just like, oh, here's one episode, the things happen, and the next episode picks up right after that. Because like, I don't know, I'm going in with like the sort of just normal comedy show sitcom sort of idea where like every single episode is just like, oh, an average day, you know?
Yeah,
like,
whenever it does like skip time, it very much like you can see and like they tell you this much time passed, so you kind of have like a register of how much time is passing, which is probably like relevant to experience the feelings that they want you to.
Yeah. So they've come back from seeing Diane's family in Boston. They arrive. Mr. Peanutbutter is there with a honey sign for his honey, which is a nickname that he made up for Diane.
He's a genius. That's a really good one. Because, honey's like sweet.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Speaking of honey, what I am drinking tonight is Krupnikas, which is a honey liqueur.
You sounded really dorky whenever you said that. Please stop. You sound like a jester.
That's what I am. That's what I am on this show. I'm your little jester. I'm doing a little jester dance. The fool. I have my little jester hat. Hey, do you think jester aesthetics are going to come back? Because I feel like clown aesthetics are in the process, and I feel like everything is all about throwbacks. And what is more throwback than being a jester? I'm just saying.
I don't know if anything medieval has ever been cool, other than like maybe corsets. Like,
yeah, I was about to say corsets, ruffle sleeves.
But corsets like trace back to a lot of other time periods too. Same as ruffle sleeves. Like, I don't think anything that's just
trace
like
back a long time, in my opinion.
I don't think that anything like super specific to medieval. Not to say that like swords and shit aren't cool, but I mean like objectively, like generally to the general public. Crowns. I don't think that those things
they're coming back. Crowns. I'm declaring it. I will bring them back single-handedly. I'm gonna start wearing crowns.
I think that'd be fun. I think that you should start wearing a jester hat with little bells, so I can hear whenever you're walking around.
Where were we?
Honey.
Oh yeah. Right. We were at the very first.
Yeah.
It's like seconds of the show. Sorry.
Yes.
They get into Mr. Peanutbutter's car. But like in the moments as they get into the car, they're Diane and Bojack are clearly having some chemistry. They're joking about stuff on the plane. Mr. Peanutbutter is just not getting it. He's like laughing at the wrong thing, basically, which is Ben Stiller jokes. It's weird. But they right before they get in the car, Diane gets in the car. Mr. Peanutbutter basically pulls Bojack aside and is like, "Hey, I don't have to worry about you and Diane, right?" And Bojack goes, "What?
No.
Get out of here.
Silly goose, of course not."
And Mr. Peanutbutter takes him at his word because he's a dummy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first scene, and then we got the intro.
Yeah, I felt like this scene, this whole dynamic between the three of them. Okay, and this can like also be included in like the restaurant scene and basically the whole thing. I feel like I've been in all three positions. Diane's position, I've definitely been in, and it's really fun. Like, I would say that I've been in that position, and I am curious because I just would like pretend that I didn't know what was going on. I'm curious if Diane is also doing that, because there was that scene with Carolyn where she was like, okay, like, shut up, like, Bojack's in love with you, you know that? And she was like, what? No, she obviously knew, but I think that she kind of likes it a little bit.
Maybe. Well,
or she's just being indecisive.
Well, we'll talk about it as it goes on. But you said you were in all three positions. You were in Diane's, you were in the Horseman's, you were in Doggy's position.
Yeah. Literally. I was in Doggy. Thank you for that. Yes, I've been in all those positions. I would, definitely have to say, probably both of the dudes' positions were the worst.
Who was stealing your girlfriend?
I've been in that position before.
Who was stealing your girlfriend? Call him out.
I'm not gonna. What? No.
We have a platform. We can enact change.
Well,
we can hold people accountable.
All right, listen. One time, my wife got seduced by a man at her office, and I thought things were going really well. And then one day, I got home, and there was just a note, and she said, "Peace out." And I never saw her again. And
suck a dick, dumb shit.
She said, "Suck a dick, dumb shits." I found out the reason that she left me for him is because he has more Pokemon cards than I do, like better Pokemon cards, which is fair. She deserves better. So good for her.
Right.
I don't
all
know.
That little stuff.
I don't know.
All right, I don't know how to make this joke funny. I'm gonna move on. What's the next scene?
Theme song comes on. I think that they're driving back. I think they're gonna drop Bojack off, but then it turns out, that they have dinner plans, and Diane insists on inviting Bojack, so they go, and automatically, like, Bojack and Diane are still having fun, and Mr. Peanutbutter is just like kind of like he's got like a bad seat in the restaurant. He's trying to get along with them, but getting frustrated because he's kind of being excluded. They've formed their own relationship that doesn't really involve him,
right? And
I think that's
kind of
difficult.
intentionally keeping him out.
Oh yeah,
really
of course.
Obviously,
he probably
really
feels
obnoxiously
jolly about it, like.
Yeah.
He's frustrated, and then they start fighting.
Real quick, I do want to point out also in the car to the restaurant, Mr. Peanutbutter's like, no, I don't really want to go have dinner with Bojack, right? It was just supposed to be the two of us. And Diane's like, what are you talking about? You always want to hang out with Bojack. You're constantly telling me how, why is it Bojack answering my calls? Oh, I can't answer that call right now because what if I'm on the call and Bojack calls me? And like, it's so many things. It's just like clearly that Mr. Peanutbutter is just like just wants a friendship with Bojack so badly, and that's wild to me.
Okay.
Like I thought
my drunk mind just figured something out. This has to be canon. I'm going to announce a canon.
Okay.
Mr. Peanutbutter is not jealous of Diane. He's jealous of Bojack because he's in love with Bojack. And that's why he gets so upset.
I actually meant to say that joke when it's just the three of them getting into the car. And there's just like so much like tension going on. But yeah, within the context of like he's just basically in love with Bojack, or really, really wants to get close to him, right? And it's in that straight man way where of course they just want to be besties, but like they just can't imagine something physical, right?
Right.
But if something physical were to happen at some point, because Bojack has an alcohol problem, so like anything
they
happen,
throw a fuss about it.
Okay, no, I'm not done.
Bothered.
I'm not done going through this.
Continue.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Peanutbutter, does he drink very often? I don't see him drink very often. I think he's pretty much sober all the time, and that's the problem, right? Because he's too collected all the time. But so here's what happens. All right, Bojack and Mr. Peanutbutter, they have a fight, but then at some point they go to drink to make up. They finally get Mr. Peanutbutter to drink, and actually that's what happens this episode.
Yeah, it is.
Later
it's great for camaraderie.
Exactly, and so they're bonding over bay leaves as what was going on. And you know, one thing leads to another. They're joking around, they're having fun, they lean a little closer, and you know, lip lock, right?
And then they pull in Todd, as per usual.
As per usual, just
Todd's like the fluffer, I think.
Yep. And Diane just kind of gets forgotten, and then she has to demand attention. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking, hoping. That's what should happen. In an ideal world where monogamy hadn't infected everyone's mind as like the one and only option, that is the true happy world, where everyone's happy.
I actually was, first of all, okay, I want to say I did have to drink a little bit more to get through that conversation, but I do like, that thought actually did cross my mind with the whole like Bojack and Peanutbutter thing with Diane, because I'm like, well, like clearly she has a lot of needs that are only fulfilled by Bojack and the needs that are only fulfilled by Mr. Peanutbutter. So in this scenario, it would just, everything would be solved if they just had like just a little
didn't
triad.
Have like, yeah, just lost the jealousy and
also,
just formed a polyamorous triad.
Can you imagine the publicity that they would get from that? Like, holy shit, Bojack and Mr. Peanutbutter, people would love that.
And like, there's for sure like a lot, especially with a lot of like queer things, like the Bojack and Mr. Peanutbutter relationship. Obviously, that would gain some controversy, right, because of the whole homosexuality thing, the whole interspecies thing, right? But polyamory is sexy, you know, like. You kind of can't go wrong with it sometimes. It's just kind of weird why it hasn't become like a big thing in media nowadays, in my opinion.
I feel like a lot of people are extremely closed off to polyamory just because jealousy is, I mean, a lot of times jealousy isn't even jealousy. It's a very broad term that people use. It's not like people are thinking, oh, I wish that was me right now experiencing those things. It's more like their jealousy is just like fear and insecurity of like, oh, well, this person maybe will replace me because I'm not good enough to provide these things, you know? And I think that it takes, I'm not good with jealousy. I don't think most of the time, but I'm trying. And, you know, I think a lot of people struggle with it a lot because it's such a strong emotion that it's easier to just make rules so that you don't have to deal with that emotion.
Not that I would say that most relationships are just sort of that default. If you're in a monogamous relationship, I respect it. But what I meant more specifically was, why isn't it a thing in like celebrity media, you know?
In celebrity media?
Yeah, and like,
I thought that you just meant in like TV shows.
No. Well, maybe TV. Yeah, like in representation. Like, I get why everyone on a personal choice would not do it, but it is strange how it's not like a,
well, I feel like
a sexy thing in media that shows up all the time.
I think that they do that in like the sort of media where they would already kind of take jumps like that, but just in regular media, I mean, they generally try to be kind of universally relatable. I think that's something that so many people would maybe even be upset about.
That's not
I don't
relatable to me. So
that's
monogamy.
Fair.
But additionally, one thing I think is, on all these like shows where there's like these love triangles form, like the solution to the love triangle is just connect all the sides, right? All the points, form a triangle, form a triad, and it's stable. Okay, triads IRL are often not stable, but that's a whole different thing. But it solves too many problems, right? Then you don't have the love triangle thing of like everyone competing with each other. Instead, you've solved the problem, right? And that does not make good TV, right? So that's why there's no triads in television.
Maybe. I would like to genuinely see more of that. There was like there was a point in I was watching Euphoria, and there's like a point in the show where I feel a little misled. I thought that it was leading towards like a triad with a few of the characters, and it just like didn't happen at all. Lame. But I feel like they really made it seem like it would. Like, if you once you get to that point, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm curious if our listeners know what I'm talking about too, but I was pretty upset about that.
We could do another podcast covering Euphoria.
That would be fun. I don't know though. I don't.
It's a lot.
I think there's honestly most of the stuff I would have to say about Euphoria would more just be about like the cinematography. Like, watching it, I have watched it with the headspace of like, if I were to analyze this, what would I say? And I feel like there is like even just the makeup. I follow the makeup artist, and she like thinks of like the character development and things to do with their personalities and what happens in those episodes when like coloring their stuff, and like how sharp she makes like their eyeliner and stuff like that. Like every detail is kind of thought about. Be a little overwhelming.
The honey liqueur is tasting better as our conversation goes on.
Because you're drunker.
You're drunker.
So they get to the restaurant and they get in this really absurd fight that lasts like a while, where they just start competing and offering to like buy the restaurant things. They get to a point where they're like playing board games.
In absurd displays of romantic skill. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember being really confused about this scene for a while, just because I knew that like I know that they do cut across the line of like that sort of absurdity sometimes, but this seemed to be like too long running. Like to like it just seemed a little too weird. Like it didn't make a lot of sense. And then I realized that like they're just kind of showing like kind of, it was just like an adaptation of like that whole process of competing with somebody else for someone else's affection, of like trying to cast them in like a negative light and trying to, I don't know, just appear to be better and dress better and treat them better and convince them that you are the better person with all these stupid things. And all in all, it's all just ridiculous. I think they were just trying to convey that through this very silly scene.
It's like condensed down all of those things that would normally take place over a long period of time. They do it in one stupid night. But by the end of the night, they are both very, very, very tired. And Diane's fallen asleep. Poor girl. Until finally Bojack wins one of the board games or something. Or an arm wrestle? I don't remember exactly what it was.
I don't know. He wins, and then PB takes
his girlfriend home to his bed,
because it's his girlfriend. Which, yeah, in the end, it's like, you know, you can do that as much as you want, but who's dating who? Like, you know.
Also, Diane didn't give a shit about any of that at all.
No, of course not. It's all just against like those two people. It has nothing to do with the actual person in between.
Men.
Yeah. Oh, and something important that happens while they're at this restaurant before the games even start is that Mr. Peanutbutter gives Diane a D pendant, like a necklace. So it's the letter D. So I think that that's kind of what maybe manifested. Like something happened in like Bojack's brain. He saw that, and she obviously liked it a lot. And then as he got drunker and more competitive, he's like, "Oh, I can top that.
I could get a better D. I could give her the best D that she's ever got. I could give her the biggest D in the city.
The most metallic, giant D that she's ever had."
So he drinks away his problems. He drinks a bunch of absinthe. Have you ever drank absinthe? I have not. I've been meaning to. I had another friend that was totally enamored with the idea of drinking absinthe. I don't remember if she ever did.
I remember watching an episode of Bob's Burgers where it was like Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and he drank the absinthe, and he was like doing his usual, you know, talking to the turkey and the food, which also, by the way, that's like my favorite part of that whole show.
What?
It's just watching Bob, every time he's like cooking, he like talks to the food and like makes these cute little voices, and it just like makes everything that makes me upset about the world just like disappear.
Oh, that's really, really nice. Maybe we should do special episodes talking about Bojack or Bob's Bob Burger episodes.
Bob Burger.
Bobby Bob episodes.
Do you remember how at one point in that show Teddy was just like he was like, do you even Bob was like, do you even know like our last name? Teddy was like, it's Burger. Bob's Burger. Like, no. He was like, what? No, it's Bob Burger.
I love his voice actor so much.
Oh, so good. All the voice acting in that show is just literally every, like, they have Kristen Schaal and stuff, and the guy that voices Bob, I can't remember his name, but he's in a lot of other stuff, and he's
That's a good
so
show. We
funny.
should be covering that show instead.
I don't know if I could analyze it. I feel like we could do like a live stream where like we watch it and like people could just watch us watching it because people like to do that for some reason.
Okay, sure. All right. So Bojack wakes up the next day. And we're treated to a newscast. How the Hollywood D has been stolen. So now it's just Hollywood. And he's like, who would steal the D off the sign? And then he notices in his pool is the Hollywood D. He's like, why did I steal the D from the Hollywood sign? And then Diane says, ding dong, Diane's here at the door. So so he drunkenly stole the D.
Oh, and then Diane was telling him about that voicemail that he left her, which was so funny because this was kind of like similar to that other crazy voicemail that like we quoted the entire thing, but that like all she heard was just like he was trying to talk, but she could just hear a lot of like wheezing and then like dismantling metal and like dragging something really heavy for like miles. She was like, oh, by the way, did you see that the D is missing from the Hollywood sign?
Yeah, and he goes, did I say anything incriminating on that voicemail? And she's like, nothing as incriminating as that anyway.
It is funny that she didn't really like figure that out.
Yeah, she's just kind of really dumb sometimes. I don't know. It's weird.
Maybe she just believes what she wants to in some situation. I don't know if how true that is to her character, but maybe she was just very distracted. I mean, she does have a lot going on. She's writing a book, you know.
Also, who would steal the D off of a Hollywood sign?
Yeah, that doesn't really sound like a Bojack thing, which I guess is like
Bojack would never drunkenly steal. No, that's no. Okay.
Oh, we haven't mentioned Todd's whole subplot.
Yeah. Let's jump in on that real quick. Let's just go kind of through the whole story real quick, basically, because I feel like it's pretty easily summarized.
Yeah. Todd was put in prison in the last episode, so they're just doing the whole sitcom trope of having 2 dates to the prom, but it's 2 prison gangs that are fighting for him. I think it's
the Aryans and the Latin Kings.
Yeah. And I noticed it's kind of funny because, you know, his last name is Chavez. So like, I think that his dad is Hispanic and then like his mom is Caucasian. So he could potentially fit into either of these groups.
I think IRL, you kind of can't fit into either. I think that's usually how it goes.
Well, I guess they do usually go by last names. That would actually kind of, I wonder how that would go. Maybe it depends on the prison, but yeah, because
we should interview some prison gang members for research purposes.
Great idea. That's a good idea. I probably know some.
You might
pull them up on the show.
I know people who should be in jail. Anyway, so Todd's in jail. He meets the Aryan gang member in the bathroom and notices
they reach for the soap at the same time.
Yeah, and the Aryan's like, yeah, we have a lot in common. We're both white. We both are into cleansing. It's just like, Jesus Christ. These jokes are really...
Dude, there was one of the inmates at the prison had like, you know, they always like to just put stupid little things in the background, and one of them had like a giant neck tattoo that just said bad boy on it. I kind of want that tattoo. Just I almost had
honey liqueur come out of my nose for that. So
ow.
Thanks. Yeah, that would have been bad. I used my superior skills to not do that.
I wonder, can you make like, I bet you can. I'll make like a temporary bad boy tattoo.
Okay. Why?
Because I think
what purpose?
Because I genuinely kind of want that tattoo. I think it would be really funny.
That's the best reason to get a tattoo.
I don't think my work would love that. So that's why we get the temporary tattoo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and he's sort of going back and forth between the 2 gangs.
It's pretty good. It's that honestly like is one of my favorite bits. I was thinking in the car earlier whenever I was driving home from work about like just I feel like sometimes I take jokes like that for granted, and then I was thinking of like being the writer in the room and coming up with that. I would be so excited. Like I would feel like so clever. And honestly, that was really clever, especially since sitcoms are such a big theme of the show. I realize also, that like Todd is virtually throughout the whole show, he's the one that's kind of living in a sitcom throughout the whole thing.
That's really, yeah, you have that written down here. But and that's really interesting too, because that's kind of like exactly, wait, okay, like in a sitcom, that's what it would be, right? It's a 2 dates to a prom thing, it's a love triangle thing, and then on the Bojack side, you have like sort of more of a real life thing where it's super toxic. You have these two men being competitive over this woman and kind of like forgetting her in the process. And in the
neither
end,
of them were thinking like, what can I do right now that would make Diane really happy?
Yeah. And and then you have the sitcom life with basically a romance going on. And that one doesn't end well either. So
no, I like that there were like several times where Todd has called Bojack to bail him out, and then he mentions at one point like, okay, like bail is only like $50.
It's so tragic.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, so there's also that funny scene with Beyonce, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, so real quick, the next bit is that Mr. Peanutbutter comes to confront Bojack about the D that he has stolen. Which Mr. Peanutbutter figured it out because of his brilliant detective skills and the fact that Bojack left him a voicemail saying that he did it and that Mr. Peanutbutter could suck his D.
Solid.
Yeah, it's good. And they agree to work together to get rid of the D in exchange for Bojack. Well, first, Mr. Peanutbutter demands that he never talk to Diane again, and Bojack's like, "Well, she's writing my book, so I can't do that." And he's like, "Okay, well, just don't pursue her romantically," which is really extremely reasonable. That's extremely reasonable.
And he agrees. He says, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, and they shake on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where they get down to business. They start drinking coffee, which Mr. Peanutbutter doesn't know have been spiked with Bailey.
He's like, "Oh, I've had like 8 of these." And that's when their threesome happens. Blah 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 blah.
Off screen. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that scene was kind of weird. That was the first time I remember seeing Mr. Peanutbutter actually just acting like anything but like a whimsical like character. Like he actually just acted like a normal person. He was like, "This is fucked up. Leave my girlfriend alone." Like, and that it was even still after seeing it so many times, watching that made me feel weird. I don't know. It's so out of character and like rare for him to act like that.
Yeah, he was getting kind of territorial right there.
Like a dog.
Like a dog barking. Yeah.
No, I'm slowly realizing that a lot of stuff, I mean, I'll talk about it more later because I realized it by accident actually also, but yeah, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with animals and stuff. You know, that kind of reminds me though, if we're getting insight on the characters through what animals they are. Did I ever tell you the story about that horse on my grandma's farm that started just killing sheep because it was so horny?
What the fuck? No?
I guess I will later.
I mean, vibes, but like
yeah. Well, they just started finding sheep like dead around the various farms in the area, and they were like accusing people's dogs of having murdered the sheep, except there was like no blood. They just had their necks snapped, right? Like they weren't eaten or anything, so like it couldn't have been the dogs because they would have like bitten their throats or something, right? And no one, they couldn't figure out what it was until they finally saw it, that this horse was just so fucking like angry and pent up from like being around these mares that were in heat and not being able to fuck them, right? That like in the field, and it was just going around, like it would literally just bite the sheep's fucking neck, toss it into the fucking air, and snap its neck.
Me.
Just out of anger.
Me. So anyways, then they're doing the mission to get the D. back I think their plan was to throw it into like the ocean or something. So
it's just so fucking funny to me.
They're like, yeah, let's make that the ocean's problem.
Take that, the ocean, Mr. Peanutbutter said.
So yeah, Bojack tries to distract everybody. There's a whole bit with the dollar bills. It's moderately funny, but then fucking Beyonce comes out. That whole scene was so fucking funny. I think so. I don't care about Beyonce, but I just thought like the fact that they were just like making her like sing so much. Can I hear your imitation actually of a
What? Me?
Yeah, what did she sound like? What did she sound like when she said that she broke her ankle? What did she say?
I literally do not recall.
She said,
plead the fifth.
"Oh, I broke my ankle." And then she started harmonizing. And then they proceeded to make like 10 Beyonce jokes on the newscast. Like this really bit stupid. Lasted like 10% of the episode.
See, that's the thing, is that it was not funny to me. It just wasn't. I
thought it was so funny because it was so stupid.
She slipped on a bunch of $1 bills, and they go, "Oh, she slipped on all the single dollars, all the single dollars." All of the single dollars. That's
bills,
right.
Bills.
I don't. That's not funny to me. It's so lame.
I think that the fact that it was such an obvious and stupid joke is what makes it funny. I also like that, like, work for me. Whenever they have celebrities on the show, they make their faces so detailed, and it reminds me of SpongeBob, which I absolutely love. Or I guess they do the same thing on Family Guy, which we've found a lot of parallels between Family Guy and Bojack, which is interesting. But yeah, they just like give them like an extra detailed face because they had Cate Blanchett on as well, and she had they did really well actually on her. Like for how little of detail they can put into the characters, she really looked like Cate Blanchett, which was cool. And the other chick looked a lot like Beyonce.
Yeah, the Cate Blanchett thing is kind of funny, where just to jump to that joke, Princess Carolyn asked Bojack if he would watch Cate Blanchett play Ava Braun in a movie, and he's like, yes, who wouldn't watch Cate Blanchett in anything, basically. And then the next scene is back in the prison where the Aryans are explaining that Ava Braun was basically, what does he call her in that episode?
I actually don't remember that part.
Oh no, he says Ava Braun was basically like the Beatles of the Third Reich. Just like, oh, that's who Ava Braun is. Okay, cool.
Oh, there was that scene where I don't even know if I should say this. There was this scene where Todd was like, "Sorry, I disappeared. I didn't mean to pull an Anne Frank on you."
It's bad.
I thought it was funny.
Do you think we should think a little bit less of Todd for consorting so like happily with Nazis? I will say my favorite line delivery of the whole episode. There's two lines I love in this episode. One of which is when Todd is talking to the Aryan, actually right after that scene about Ava Braun, and he says, "I didn't know Nazis were so into Nazis." And he just says it like totally fucking hammered. I don't know. It was good. It was
good. I remember that. Yeah, I feel we should probably keep moving. I just realized
apologies. We drank. Okay,
we talked about Beyonce for like a solid 4 minutes, which is a while.
That's your fault. It's not my fault.
It is my. I take full responsibility because you know what? I'm a single lady.
You're not a single lady. You're neither of those things. You're neither single nor a lady.
Bills.
What does that even mean? So then PB steals the D. He takes the D with his helicopter, which he was supposed to do. That's what the distraction was for. But then he holds a press conference saying that he's stolen the D for Diane and does a big like romantic gesture, right? Diane does show up and she's kind of like really weirded out by all the media attention.
Because of course she doesn't like that.
Yeah. And he kind of fishes for her to say "I love you," and she just kind of drives away, which is good.
Yeah, the whole scene was interesting because it's like, it was obviously upsetting for Bojack to see that PB stole his idea, but also the fact that he just so almost seemingly effortlessly made it work. Like, he just did it and everybody, like, forgave him immediately. They just let him keep the D and they were, like, clapping. I think that he got, like, a movie deal out of it. Like,
that's later, I think, but yes.
Well, I mean, Carolyn starts talking about it. I'm assuming. I can't remember if they actually ever made it.
She mentions it real quick, but it doesn't get confirmed.
I don't remember if they ever made anything, but yeah, like it just works out so well for him, and it again reminds me of like the Zoe Zelda issue where it's just like, you know, if Carolyn says it, a lot of times I write these things down and then they just say it on the show, so then I feel like kind of stupid. But
yeah, no, I really like that bit. So Bojack calls her upset about this whole twist around, right? And Princess Carolyn, after talking about Kate Blanchett for a second, basically says that it's not a Bojack thing to do a big romantic gesture of giving, of stealing a monument and then giving it to someone that they love. That is not a Bojack thing. Drunkenly going in the middle of the night to deface a monument, that's a Bojack thing. But the romantic gesture, that's PB, and only PB could pull that off.
See, that's just crazy because it's like the same actions, but yeah, there's just like, I mean, even me, like, yeah, I can sympathize with like how like just the general public would see an event like that, and like, yeah, it checks out, and that would just make it hurt so much more because it's like, it's not, the issue isn't just situational. It's like it's you, you know, like you did this action and Mr. Peanutbutter did this action, but of course it worked out for him because you're a piece of shit. And everybody would perceive it as you just be continuously being a piece of shit, you know? It's just kind of heartbreaking. But
yeah, so next I think Bojack and Diane have a short scene together finally. And again, there's that like chemistry going on there. Like Bojack says like another Ben Stiller joke, and Diane like responds with another one, and she's like tucking her hair behind her ear.
Oh, that was
which she
cute.
always does when she's like kind of like flirting when she doesn't realize it. And Bojack kind of goes on about like that was a Mr. Peanutbutter thing. So stealing Princess Carolyn's words, which is kind of like okay, as if it's his own observation, and says it's a Mr. Peanutbutter thing to do a big, you know, grand gesture like this. But what actually would be something that Diane likes is like an album of like all their favorite memories, or you know, a couple other like very specific examples. Of, like,
MP3 player with her favorite podcasts or something.
Yeah.
So I actually, while I was driving home from work today, I was giving this episode a lot of thought, which I actually had not watched it in like a while. I think usually whenever I rewatch the show, I'll kind of skip past the first season. So I didn't remember this bit. And I was just thinking about the whole thing with the D, and that same thing occurred to me where I was like, I had this whole brain, like this whole thought process, which I thought was kind of interesting, where I was like, okay, obviously Mr. Peanutbutter, like he does love Diane in his own way. He does love her, and he's expressing love through like devotion and acts of service. Because and whenever I said that in my head, I was like, okay, like a dog, like, you know, it checks out.
He brings her a stick, you know.
Yeah, like he's loyal. What?
Real quick, it's very important. I think my favorite, just like real quick gag of the whole episode is when at the airport at the beginning they open the trunk and it's just full of tennis balls.
Yeah, that was
just
that
completely
was
full of tennis balls. I apologize. Please continue.
He might be like the most like shamelessly, like just authentically, like he is just a dog. Like
he's a golden retriever boyfriend. Everyone loves those.
True. But yeah, I started thinking, I was like, okay, yeah, like a dog, you know, the acts of service, loyalty, blah blah blah. But that's not what's important to her. Like, she can recognize it as being something, but from what we can see from the previous episodes, something that Diane really needs is she just wants to feel like seen and understood on like a very like deep personal level. She wants to feel scene. So it doesn't matter, like, you know, if Mr. Peanutbutter spent $2 billion doing some crazy thing for her, it would probably be less significant to her than like if he like wrote a poem for her or something
Right,
like
or
that.
like wrote her a letter as if it was from Leo, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
Bojack did in the last episode. Yeah.
And this did occur to me in the car, and then I saw that scene, and I was like, oh yeah, like he literally says, like, yeah, this wasn't for you. This wasn't a Diane thing. This was a Mr. Peanutbutter thing. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's yeah. And you know, everyone has their love languages, but then there's that scene where Mr. Peanutbutter gives her like some strawberries and the candles and a little photo album. And
Right.
again, I literally like forgot what was going to happen, and I was like, oh, you know, it reminded me of
Mm-hmm.
whenever he gave her those Diane Arbus tickets.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of the exact same thing as that time where, and during this, by the way, Bojack is leaving his voice message, kind of expressing some of his own feelings.
That was great.
But
The way that they like
mm-hmm,
scripted that was like, I
mm-hmm.
was, to be fair, I was already really emotional whenever I was watching this episode, but like that was great. That was really smart. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
we see Diane's phone go off with a
Hmm.
voicemail being left on it as Mr. Peanut Butter gives her the photo album. So it's interesting, just like that
Well,
that other time
I think it went
where
off whenever he proposed.
yeah, where he did his own thing, his own big gesture, stuff his own way, and then did stuff her way for a bit, right? And so
Well,
gives
for a
her the
second.
for a second, right? That's the thing, is that he clearly, it's like he understood it's just her and him. He emphasizes that, right? Because he understands that she does want things to be more private, and
I
gives
feel like
her
that was part of the reason that she said yes to. Like, I feel like I've been
mm-hmm,
in situations a lot of times where I was either like friends or in a relationship with someone where it's like, okay, like I've been convinced that this is not working, and then like they'll do something small like that where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. No, this is good. Like those, whenever you really want something to work out, you can find meaning in those little things. And I think
mm-hmm,
that whenever she saw that he made this like small gesture, and also like for him proposing like in private, that's
right,
like crazy. You know, Mr. P, he would want to do some crazy gesture, get a lot of publicity out of it. He didn't do
yeah,
that as far as she knew. She
yeah.
said yes and realized that that was not actually the case.
Yeah, he immediately reveals that there's like a whole surprise party, just like like the lights switch on and cameras are there and taking pictures and everything.
Probably with like a bunch of people she doesn't even know.
Exactly. And it's interesting too that like I okay, so a couple things that I want to run together is that, like, one, it is a Mr. Peanut Butter thing to give Diane the D, and sorry, I laughed at that joke. And Bojack is like, yeah, that's a Mr. Peanut Butter thing to do. It's not what Diane would want. Well, it's like, well, also you're the one that stole it, right? Like, it was Bojack that originally stole it. Like, even if he understands what Diane actually like wants or whatever, he still like would have done the same thing, basically, right?
Hmm.
Like, what was he just gonna steal the giant D and then not show her it? Was that what his drunken self logic was? No, it was like, or maybe it was. Maybe it was just to prove himself or something. Anyway, but yeah, then you have Mr. Peanut Butter sort like doing the stuff that like seems like he cares and knows and actually does want Diane to feel like seen and stuff, but then kind of like actually it's kind of just a ruse. It's weird. I'm not entirely sure what to feel about those things.
Uh, I don't. I'm not sure either.
It's just like that, like these two men sort of like knowing what she needs and then like specifically not giving that to
I
her.
mean, well, actually, that kind of reminds me of my discussion question idea. And if you have one, you can totally ask one. But mine is it applies to this question of like, do either, and I guess it's hard to tell because we still have a lot of time to get to know the characters, right? But do either of these boys deserve Diane? And if
Yeah.
so, which one of them do and why?
Yeah,
That's
I
my
was
question.
kind of thinking the same thing where like it's interesting that like neither of them are just bad or just are like actually good for her, like
Yeah.
purely good for her.
They
Both of
both
them
have like
have
really clear
issues.
negatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she just needs someone else entirely. You know what? That guy at Penguin Publishing could use like a cheering up. I'm just
He's got a
saying.
wife and kids.
He would be so grateful to have someone like Diane. Do you realize how happy he'd be?
I feel like his wife would be happy too. She's like, "Oh, that author that's like bringing money to feed our children." God, that's dark.
Okay, look, there is something that I don't know if you're gonna include this in the recording or not, but there's just like a vibe that I get from the Penguin that
Oh
like,
my god.
and this is fine, this is okay, but I just get the vibe that he might have ED, and I
What?
feel I get that vibe. He's very stressed out.
Okay.
I just feel like that can like being that stressed, it's very hard to like be able to perform under that sort of stress. You know?
Sorry, my initial connection was eating disorder, and I was like, "What?"
No, I think he has
Where are you going with this?
erectile dysfunction disorder.
That's going at the end of the episode. Just saying that with the fucking volume maxed out. Okay, that said, I did just cross my mind. So real quick, that Bojack does fantasize about Diane, right? He says in only 2 positions.
Only 2.
So I have my discussion question, which is which 2 positions is Bojack fantasizing about Diane in?
Is there like a horse themed one? Like a horseback one?
Is there a horse themed position?
Bareback position. I don't think that's a position. That's a maneuver. I don't know what you're going to include in this, and I'm kind of scared. I feel like I'm going to listen. So I always listen to these episodes like at work on Wednesday, just to like make sure there's nothing crazy. I feel like I'm going to listen to it, and I can just see myself with like my forehead like in my hands. And me just being like, I'm gonna kill myself. This is the day. This is the day that I'm gonna do it. These sort of episodes. This is why I don't link the podcast in my LinkedIn. Is because of these moments. I don't put it.
I don't either because they're queer. Like they're gonna listen to it and be like, "Oh, this faggot. No, we don't want the faggot on the team."
Well, you know that it's interesting. I just got like a really cool job. And it was like I think partially like I didn't have to do too much to get all these interviews, and on these interviews like everybody was asking me about the podcast, and I did not give them a link, but I gave a brief description, and I think that people for some weird reason think it's really cool to have a podcast. I feel kind of embarrassed.
Never get that either. Me
I
too.
feel embarrassed whenever I say I have a podcast, but they always think it's like so interesting and cool. Like I feel like if that hadn't been on my resume and we hadn't talked about that I wouldn't have gotten that job, which is kind of crazy.
It is really, really weird how people are interested in it because like it's okay. So I'm not full on embarrassed by the fact that I have podcasts. But like you know, I very much emphasize I don't think it's a cool thing, right? It's just like a thing I do, right?
Yeah.
For fun and profit, right? And yet, yeah, they just do emphasize it, and like, I don't know, it is weird.
Yeah, it's kind of really surprising how excited people get about it sometimes. I don't know. It's cool though. Like, I feel like I've done a lot of art throughout my life that like people don't really care a lot about, but I think maybe whenever it's like in like the public eye, that's whenever people care, which is kind of strange. But
yeah, it's kind of gross
because I feel like podcasting is like way easier than any of the
like
other.
I mean, easiest art you can do.
Okay, let's clarify. It is a ton of work. Like I have to like reserve a lot of like personal time and stuff with like in my relationships and a lot of other things that I want to do to make this podcast. But like it's a lot less work than like making a beautiful painting or like writing a book or something. At least in this podcast.
It doesn't take a ton of work. That's my distinction.
It might depend on the show. Like there's
for sure.
Obviously, but for this one specifically, yeah. Like it does. Again, it takes a lot of work, but I don't know. I feel like what I was doing before and what I guess I'm still doing is like cooler. You know, I feel like it took a lot more practice maybe is the right term.
Sure.
Because anybody can make a podcast. You know, you learn a little bit, you make it. But you know, if you're gonna make like a great like sketch or like a web comic or a YouTube video or a poem or something, like that takes like years and years and years of practice and learning and stuff. So
you know,
it's weird.
I've met people who do podcasts, even outside of my connections within a podcast network, right? I've never met anyone who vlogs and admits it. You know, I feel like that's interesting.
I don't think I've met anyone who vlogs either.
Well, do you know though? Have you searched every one of your acquaintances like names on YouTube?
No.
Because maybe you got some vloggers on your list because they got some small audiences like ours. Like, who knows? You know,
I feel like if I had a vlog with like, if I had a vlog with more than like 30 views, I'd be pretty like happy about it. Like, even just having, because I mean, you're comparing it to this show, like having hundreds of listeners. Like, if I had like 200 people watch a vlog that I made about like, I don't know, going and getting coffee and like going for a walk or something, I would feel like very special.
Interesting.
Like a special little boy.
We could do that, you know. We could just do a visual thing for this podcast and just put it on YouTube because we have a YouTube channel.
That's true. We could like film. Maybe next time we're in person, we can do like an actual, like we can film us recording for it.
But okay, on Bojack's voicemail, right? So he calls her and he says a couple of things. Leaves a voicemail saying, "Sorry if I've made things weird." It's a very man apology. First of all, I just want to point out that real quick, where it's just like, if I made you feel weird, just like you did.
If you feel this way, I'm sorry that you feel this way.
Right.
That's so unfortunate that you have your womanly feelings have made you feel that way.
Yeah, he does a little bit, sort of take a little bit, tiny bit responsibility, but it's one of those ways where it's like, it's not really my fault. But anyway, he says, I guess it's just weird having someone know you and you know me, Diane, which is like, yeah, she's your biography ghostwriter. So, yeah, it's clearly like a bit heartfelt. It's like Bojack confessing that like he finally feels like a connection to Diane. But yeah, she gets proposed to by Mr. Peanutbutter, and immediately afterwards she does call Bojack out on the steps of her house where no one is, as in like she got proposed to, and then Mr. Peanutbutter just like fucking ran off for the media attention or something.
Her instinct is to call Bojack and tell him immediately. Like, we didn't see her call her family or anything. Like, she steps out.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, but she steps out to say like, hey, and she seems almost guilty about it. And she says, I got engaged. And it's this whole episode, like everything with Diane just feels too personal. Like, I feel like I haven't really gotten engaged. Not like an actual engagement, you know. And
wait, hold on. What are you implying? Did you get a fake engagement? What do you mean?
I had someone that was going to propose to me, and it accidentally got revealed that they were planning to, and I was like, don't. And then we obviously did not end up together, but I was like, yeah, don't do that. But
I had people pressuring me to propose to them.
See,
that sort of counts.
That sucks. A little bit. I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
Yeah,
girls are weird in high school.
God, high school. Ew.
I know. That's what I said.
Weird.
That's what I said.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so like right now, for a very short period of time, I like work at a corporate office that facilitates a bunch of retirement homes. So exciting, really cool. But I recently saw like a Facebook post that they did about like because it was like 2/22/22, right? And they did like a fun little event where they had everybody like make these signs that said, whenever I was 22, I was doing this. The first two were like cute. You know, one of them said like I was a dancer. One of them said some other interesting thing. The other ones, literally all of them said, I was married and pregnant with my second child. Like,
Oh my
literally, like,
gosh.
5 of them said that they were married and pregnant with their second child.
Oh my gosh.
Like, not only were they married and pregnant, but that was how they were identifying being 22. And I was like,
right.
bro, that makes me so upset. Like, and then I remembered my mom got married at 18 and she got
Right.
pregnant at 21.
Right.
So I just can't even imagine how much I'm disappointing them right now. But
well, yeah, you know, you got a couple of things before that, I feel like.
It's
Yeah.
just crazy how much things have
Yeah.
changed. Like, I don't know, the thought actually I remember, and I think I put this in some personal notes that I had, but I forget that marriage is something that a lot of people are doing at our age. And I'm like, I feel like we're at like the cusp of where like I haven't really had to consider marriage in dating before. And now I'm like,
shit.
and
Don't get, now you're making me feel like I'm supposed to.
well, no, like now I'm like, I feel like do you ever feel like there are like people in your past where like, this probably isn't even like true, but in your head, you're like, well, we're not like together, but something someday, maybe, like it's just like all these maybes, somedays, what ifs, like people, exes, like people that you like, whatever. And then like, that's all fun in high school.
Now they're getting locked down.
But yeah, now they're getting married.
They're
having
pulled out of the game.
Kids, and it's like, I don't know, the thought of like one of my like, okay, I don't have any feelings for any exes that I have, but I'm like, the idea of any of them getting married is just bizarre. Like,
interesting.
So strange.
I do have a friend that's like that, where I don't know, there was kind of like a will we won't we thing, and now they are pregnant and like
oh, I wonder who that is.
Get married. Shut up! You're not supposed to say that. But yeah, it's weird to just be like, oh, okay, so that possibility is just like,
and now that we're getting older, that's gonna get like exponentially more common. Ugh. Where like all these people, and then like for a while, like all like the cool people, like there's gonna be a lot of people that like would have been cool to be with that are just like married now,
Right.
I mean, I'm not worried about that right now because I'm like not in a position where I'm looking for anybody like that, but like,
right. That friend of mine weird. is bisexual and just like never got the chance to be with women, and it just makes me so sad.
It's tragic.
Like, you never got to have like a queer experience and to see if that's what you prefer.
The female gaze and like the relationships between like one woman and another woman is so vastly different from like being with another man. Not to say that it's better or like blah blah, but it's just like
it's just different.
It's almost like a different mode of existence. And like I feel like if she is a person that is so like deeply desiring to experience that, like just being denied that because she got pregnant is so sad.
Yeah, it bumps me out.
It's really upsetting.
I mean, she's got other things to be concerned about at this point, like the whole like having a child business. But
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Diane's engaged. Well, she's a bit older though, so it's not. She's 29.
I guess
right?
It's not as weird, but it's like as soon as she's like looking at the ring, and that's whenever like the surprise party happens, and she's like looking at it, realizing that there's a surprise party, and you can see that she's uncertain. Like it wasn't like a without a doubt, I'm so excited to be with you forever. Like it was like a
leap of faith kind of thing.
It was like
this is going so fast.
Yeah, she's like, I want this to go well, and I want to be this person, and I want this to work for me. So
trying to be a Zoe, Diane.
Marriage.
Still trying to be a Zoe.
I feel like sometimes I think about that and I'm like, I feel like for the longest time I've envisioned having like a living, very spontaneously, dating lots of people and going on adventures and living in lots of places. But then there's like this weird back burner thought of just like, getting married and like living in a really pretty house and, just having like that person and all that. And I'm like, that sounds really wonderful, like in its own way. And like, I don't know. It's just there's such big differences, and thinking about both of those things, it's like, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
It's interesting.
They both come with negatives.
Yeah. Well, my perspective is a little different. I've never thought about marriage, like, ever. Maybe it's just because my parents was not the best example. Shout out to my parents who don't listen to my podcasts. Um, but like, and I also just like generally have trouble thinking about the future. But like, I felt like nothing but like constricted by that idea, and I've just never
Yeah.
ever have thought about it. I mean, sometimes it's like it would be nice to like have a super strong connection with like someone that's basically like perfect or whatever. But that's like as far as it goes, you know? And they,
Yeah.
you know, I might have like specific fantasies about like, oh, it'd be cool to have like a kid or something.
Mm.
But yeah, I have never, ever, ever, ever thought about a wedding. Ever.
I have. Like, not a lot. Actually, only probably recently. Like, I
Mm.
think that most of my life, just because, like, being raised in, like, a religious household, I think that I, like, put a lot of, like, negative things into the idea of marriage. I just like to find that as being, like, a big part of that. And now that I'm older, I'm like, well, like, there are factors about it that are, like,
Oh, yeah.
apart from the legal factors, just, like, the idea of knowing someone so well and trusting them so much and being so deeply in love that you're like, yeah, like,
Let's commit to the
I
rest of our
want
lives.
to
Yeah.
be with you, like, forever. Like, that's really cool. And just like having that unconditional love being a part of your life, that's like priceless, you know? Like, that's really cool. And also just like the wedding itself is fun, you know? Like having a fun little party. I think I'd probably do mine outside, a little wood
I just
party.
remember being really stressed out being a ring bearer. When I was a really tiny baby. And like, oh, I gotta walk down the aisle in front of all these people.
I was a flower girl. I get it. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, that's really no, there's definitely good parts to it. I do think that part of the reason that I think about any of that is because my parents are just not, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, it's weird. They just never really thought about, they talked about those kind of things about, and they also just like weren't religious either,
Your
right?
parents haven't like ever been like pressured you to get married?
No.
That's interesting.
I mean, they got married super late too. I mean, not super late, but like I think they were 30 something already, which I mean, they're a bit older. And so like that was a little bit like late for their age group
Yeah.
or their generation is what I mean
Whereas
to
now
say.
that would be like kind of normal.
Right, yeah.
My parents always said that like I remember like them having so many conversations where they would talk about like, well, why would you date someone if your intention wasn't like to marry them? And I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah,
have the
because
intention. Like, dating is how you get to know somebody. Like,
right.
that's not always like what you have like a good time. You learn from the experience. You get to know somebody. Like, it's not that deep, mom. You know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just so
But
bizarre.
that is the interesting thing. I feel like we should probably cut this off soon, but like that is the interesting thing about dating monogamously that I just don't understand is just like how, like, what do you mean like each person you're dating is like the only person you're focusing on, because like every single person is going to be like a different kind of relationship, right? And like not only might you want different things, you might want like multiple things at the same time, right? Like I definitely want like casual things at the same time as I want long-term commitments, right? Like, and I just the idea of just like, yes, I'm dating just this person for now. I'm not going to like try to get to know anyone else.
Right.
And like I'm committing to this because okay, the other thing for me is that I have I don't know, a tendency to just like in relationships to just like, this is okay, this is fine, and just kind of like accepting that, right? Of just things being fine, and like it has already in the past like been, oh, I've almost, this is fine myself into a marriage, you know what I mean? Like, and that sounds terrible, right?
Yeah.
Of just like
Same.
you don't have a reason to break up, and so you just continue on, right?
It's like just like the path of least resistance.
Yeah, and I would not.
I'm so
might
glad
still
that
be in that if
neither
I
of
didn't
us
go
did that.
polyamorous. Yeah. I'm glad
that
that we
would
made
be
ourselves out of it.
That would be bad.
Yeah, and if I hadn't like been able to date other people during that relationship and find out, oh, like there's things that are better than this, then I would not have realized it.
Dude, my parents, okay, I really hope that they never go listen to this podcast because I feel like this is kind of personal, but like my parents have this rule where they literally are not allowed to hang out with someone of the opposite sex alone.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I'm like, okay, first of all, okay, so you obviously don't trust each other on like the boundaries that you set. Second of all, you set ridiculous boundaries. Like,
right.
If you think that the other person just wants so badly to have sex with somebody else, then maybe you should consider letting them have sex with somebody else. Like,
yeah. Wait, okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like, okay, in a short-term relationship, I can see like monogamy being like cool. Like that makes sense. But like being with somebody for like 70 years, I feel like you should get to the point. I can
hear the terror in the 70.
I feel like, yes, 70, because, okay, being with someone forever implies death. Like, it implies just like this is the last of this thing. And like romance is probably like the biggest thing in a lot of people's lives. I feel like it's such a big, it just impacts so much. So marriage can be like either an adventure or a death sentence. And a lot of people see it as a death sentence. And it's like, why would you want your partner to associate you with being like a burden, like something that stops them from doing something that makes them happy?
Ball and chain.
Yeah, like
the old ball and chain.
I remember I made a story on my Instagram with Max like a couple years ago where I just took a picture of them and I captioned it up with the ball and chain over here at like dinner. Because it's so stupid. Like that's literally horrible. And I get that like jealousy is hard to deal with, but it's like after being married that long, you should trust them enough to know that they'll still love you and let them like explore things, especially if you get married like super young, you know, like I don't know.
So funny. Just I wanted to Sebastian, I just want to make sure you're aware that we do have married people listening to this podcast. Married people who have their own marital troubles and maybe have to worry about the jealousy thing.
I think that jealousy in a lot of cases can be like just a you problem, and as harsh as like I have to tell myself that. I have to tell myself that.
Get canceled by married Twitter.
I have to tell myself that and be like, okay, listen, like you don't need to get upset about this. You don't need to bring this up because it's nothing that your partner's doing wrong. It's because you're insecure. It's because you are having trust issues from this whole other thing. Like, and learning to deal with this is important.
Yeah, well, regardless, communication is key. Yes. And if you're feeling very insecure, sometimes that can be something on your end. However, communicating that and be like, hey, I don't feel appreciated in this field. I don't feel like I feel threatened in this field. Can you please show me some more appreciation for what I do there, or tell me what I can do to do better or whatever, so that we feel insecure. And adjusting that together, I think, is the important thing. So that has been the couples counseling hour here on The View from Halfway Down.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like it's important. Like, again, like for short-term relationships, I get why that's not necessary, but I don't know. Just imagining being with somebody for that long, I feel like just trusting that they love you and that you love them. Like, I don't know, being with the same person, I feel like it's hard to grow and like be the best person you can be if you're just focusing so much time and connection. Like if you have a rule like my parents do of not even spending one-on-one time with like a person of the opposite sex, like I feel like they're like, if I had gotten married at 18 like my mom and had that rule, I would be a completely different person. Like there'd be so much that I wouldn't know, you know?
Yeah. It is all very strange. Yeah. Okay. Right. Where were we? We were with
Okay, so yeah, we're at the point where she agrees to get engaged, and then all the surprise people come out. Of course, Mr. Peanutbutter is like, Erica, blah blah blah. She's at every fucking party that they throw. Really? Okay, I'll point this out. I don't know if people who are listening haven't watched it before, but at least for you, Alex.
Okay.
Just anytime that a party is involved or something, Mr. Peanutbutter always goes, Erica, like talks. They never show Erica. This
That's pretty
happens
funny.
throughout the whole show, the whole
It's
thing.
pretty cute.
And he always talks to Erica. We never see her. But
wait, are you saying that something's going on between PB and
no!
Erica?
But it is funny, like, he's the first person that she's the first person he even addressed in that engagement, because it's just like it's very similar to the like my leg joke in SpongeBob, where like, you know, it's just like a constant. I love that factor of cartoons with like the, you know, like the like just really consistent like character like references and stuff. It's good. But yeah, so there's a party. She seems kind of unsure, but again, she's trying to be a Zelda. She's trying to figure this out, and I feel like she has this idea, like this resonance of like this is what's gonna make me whole and complete and happy. This is what I've been waiting for. And that whole moment, just like the looks on her face, with like how simplistic the animation is, like just the looks that she's making, how she's talking, I can connect to that a lot, because I feel like I've only started to think about marriage like in like the last few months, and like seriously think about it. And that's kind of how I would feel too. Like it would be that similar feeling. Like I feel like this is what will make me happy for like a few months, and this is what I am supposed to do. But like deeply, like rooted deeply, I feel like that's not really the right move, you know?
Getting married?
Yeah, just in general. Like it doesn't matter who to, just like I don't know, just making that sort of thing. Like I think it's really just like her trying to feel again, just like seen. And okay, I feel like a really big, like honestly, part of the reason why I like doing the show probably too, a big thing that I have is I feel like a lot of stuff that I do is just for the pure purpose of feeling like I exist and like people can see that I exist. And like I feel like maybe it's just because of how I grew up, like being homeschooled and like not really being around people, not being involved in social media, stuff like that. Like just feeling like people acknowledge my existence at all and the things that I do is really important to me. So I don't know, like I really resonated with her feeling like this is something that she needed to do, because like I mentioned earlier, I think that a huge part of Diane is just wanting to feel understood and seen and like recognized, like that she exists and that she's there. And right now, like societally, getting married is one of like the most significant things that a lot of people can see you doing. Like you'll get a lot of attention from doing that. People will all of a sudden remember all these things about you and be like, oh yeah, like they're my best friend, you know? Like
right.
It becomes a whole thing. And there's like this weird, like almost like how depression is, where like it's like comforting. Like to just fall into this thing where you know that it's not right and that you're not going to grow.
Interesting.
But it's like comforting to just like fall into it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that a lot of times people get married out of fear.
Interesting.
Like and out of like comfort of like, this is what I should do. And if I do this, then my future is made for me. I don't need to be anxious because I have this stable in my life, you know?
Yeah. I was about to say that's extremely big to unpack, and we'll say that for later. But I feel like that definitely is very much kind of what's happening with Diane specifically.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's keep an eye on it as we move forward.
Good idea.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about this episode? I do actually. Oh, go ahead. No, yours is more important.
Oh, I doubt that's true.
It is.
The only thing I have written down after that is that there's a quote from Bojack and like the last, I don't know if it's the last scene, but it's pretty close to the end. And it was interesting because again, like I've been thinking of this whole like just feeling known and understood theme before I even watched the episode. Like it's at least been like a year since I've seen it. And he just like is drinking scotch and he looks at the bottle and he says, nobody knows me like you do. And that's the end of it. And that is so interesting because he did mention earlier that like he's never met another woman that understood him like Diane did.
Right.
And I think that's something that a lot of people can connect to. Like, you know, you can make a lot of friends, but having somebody that really just feels like they understand is really rare, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that he's retreating into the bottle because that's a familiar thing.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
because it's
found
more
Diane.
like himself.
He found Diane, and now it's like, well, I had Diane, I had depression, I had alcohol. Like I can sit back into these things.
Right. He says actually specifically that he hates himself. But when he's with her, he doesn't hate himself, and he likes being around her.
Do my days feel better when I'm with her? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
but I don't like her.
yeah. Well, he goes on and on. It's just like, do I fantasize her? Yeah, but only in two positions. Is that the kind of person that would like steal someone else's girlfriend? Sure, but
do my
I don't
days
like
feel better
her.
around her? Does she understand me in a way that no woman ever has? Yes. But do I like her? No, of course not. No.
Get out of here.
No.
Yeah. God damn it. Although it's very him centered. I mean, it's not like he hasn't been. He has been observing, paying attention to Diane. He does care, but it's also like, I don't know. He does have a way of making a lot of things about himself, right? So
yeah, I mean the whole stealing the D, even though he was drunk, like that was clearly all about him. Like that wasn't like any selfless, like I'm gonna do this for Diane thing, you know. But I feel like he has done some nice things, and he clearly does pay attention to what she cares about. It's upsetting. I feel like I've known a lot of people that are similar to Bojack, where like they can see those things, but also like they wouldn't have that like energy and motivation to actually like carry out those ideas. Like they recognize like what I would appreciate and like, but they're not actually going to be able to coordinate all that. And then like I've also known it's part of the Zoes and Zeldas thing where like the Zoes, I feel like they maybe deeply understand those things, but also they don't really do anything about it. And then I know a lot of Zeldas were like, yeah, like they'll do really like cool, fun things for me, but they're not really things that I resonate with, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
Again, just another like universal thing. I have in my personal notes. So this reminded me, the Zoes and Zelda thing actually reminded me of something that me and my friends, so I came up with this in high school, where in a junior year, I have like a weird fixation on the Chipmunk movies, like Alvin and the Chipmunks. I do own some of them. My personal favorite is Chipwrecked, the third one. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I do really like the first one as well. The second one was okay, but
with the Chipettes,
the Chipettes are in the third one too. Okay.
Okay.
The third one is called Chipwrecked, and it's good. But anyways, God. I had this whole thing, and I literally still have a Google Doc from high school that I made, where it was like, and it reminded me of the Zoes and Zelda's thing, where I was like, everybody fits into the archetype of an Alvin, Simon, or a Theodore. Obviously, you would be a Simon.
Fuck you.
Can you argue though?
No,
exactly.
I identified with Simon.
Exactly. I didn't even think about that. I just can't, because you're a Simon. It's so easy.
What are you? What are you, Sebastian?
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously either an Alvin or a Theodore.
The trichotomy.
No, I'm one of them. I would need an outside perspective, I think.
Are you a protagonist, or are you a funny, chubby sidekick?
Okay, I think that a lot of these like are dependent on like a shallow perspective on who the person is.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Wait. Okay, more importantly, let's very quickly run through all the characters on Bojack Horseman and put them into the three personality types of Simon, Alvin, and Theodore.
Well, Bojack is a Simon.
Okay, Bojack Simon.
Yeah.
Diane Simon.
Yes.
And Mr. Peanutbutter
Theodore. Yeah. Although
Todd, Theodore.
Actually, hold on. Peanutbutter may be an Alvin. Or no, wait, not Theodore. I'm drunk. Mr. Peanutbutter, maybe an Alvin. Todd would definitely be a Theodore.
Sorry, you're just very loud. Tone it down just a tad.
Todd,
it's okay.
Todd would be a Theodore.
Todd is a Theodore.
Todd's a Theodore.
Mr. Peanutbutter might be an Alvin.
Princess
Carolyn,
a Simon.
Okay.
God, who else? Neil Beale, the Big Navy Seal,
is an Alvin.
He's an Alvin, yeah.
I would have said Simon, maybe. Actually.
What about Tom Jumbo Grumbo?
Alvin.
See, this is what I'm saying. I feel like if anyone listening, like, think of your friend group, you can very quickly categorize them into Alvin, Simons, or Theodore. I have a document. This is how I remembered. I have a Google Doc titled The Chipmunk Hierarchy, and it's all my friends from high school, but put into like different color categories of red, blue, and green of which ones they were.
Okay.
I think that I'm an Alvin, which I'm a little ashamed about.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
interesting.
No.
Which one would you rather be out of the three?
I think that as a child, actually, I very much resonated with Theodore, and I think that I've grown into an Alvin, but I've always wanted to be a Simon.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
I think that Simons are the like most easily depictable ones. Like, I can see a Simon as soon as I see a Simon. Like Sam's a Simon. Sam is a Simon.
Yeah, no,
without a fucking doubt. Yeah, anybody with glasses, literally. Like, I was thinking of all the friends that I had that have glasses. Whenever I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, they're all like Sid. Sid is a Simon. You know Sid. Like, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my mom has glasses.
Your mom is an Alvin.
She is. Dad's a Simon.
Your brother is an Alvin.
Yes, he's definitely an Alvin.
Anyways, this was important. Sure. I genuinely have been thinking about this for a long time. I think it's important.
This we've been recording for more than 2 hours, right?
Well, they better enjoy us analyzing Alvin and the Chipmunks, because I think it's important.
Okay, well, let's keep it in mind and see how it impacts our analysis of the show going forward. Okay, I feel like we talked enough about this episode. I really just want to end it. I'm done. Anything else you want to say about this episode, Sebastian?
I just want to say that your Theodore is coming out right now, and it's kind of embarrassing.
It doesn't make any. Your Theodore. This is a Simon move. I'm trying to shut off the fun. That's a Simon move. You know what? I was gonna say you should add actually a fourth axis, which is being whatever the adult's name is. Dave. Yeah, a Dave.
I think I had like a couple people, which is funny because in my friend group in high school there was a Dave. We called them Davenport for some reason, but
that's so funny.
His name was Dave, and
so quirky.
I think we might have categorized him as a Dave just because it had the same name. But yeah, that is important. There are some Daves important. Out there.
I would like to move on.
No, there are some Daves out there.
Okay, all right, Daves out there, please send an email to the pod. Okay, I'm done. Episode part's over. What was our what community feedback stuff do we have to talk about?
All right, so we had some complaints about referring to 30-year-olds as MILFs. All right, look, that was an accident.
Okay, First of all, I mean, if we're talking porn categories, no offense, all right, but that is actually how it works.
Look,
like, as soon as someone's no longer
18 and they're MILFs. Like, if you have a kid,
I don't.
If you have a kid, like well, that's also like comfort. I know one of my friends said that like she was comforted by thinking of herself as a MILF.
No, for sure. I think I just don't like the idea of referring to an 18-year-old as anything I would like to fuck.
That's fair. I would feel the same way.
But in real life, with the porn star actresses, it's like you go from teen to MILF immediately. Like there's no line. It's just like one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So if we're talking about the adult entertainment industry, then it is correct to say that. If we're talking about reality, sure. But
the only other comment we had about it was someone saying to keep an eye on Bojack, constantly talking about being a good person, because he kind of says that without putting a lot of meaning on it. Like he just keeps kind of overriding, like saying these things. Well, like who cares about this? Because you're a good person.
Yeah.
Like it's fine.
Yeah.
That's something to keep an eye on. And then we had a comment about our animal fact as well. And that was
Well, that's good. Well, I also left some comment as well that bouncing off of what Mighty Moo Quack was saying about how Bojack really focuses on being a good person, and it was I was thinking about that already, so I do just want to bring that out a little bit, but because I've been thinking about a lot of like who's at fault when it comes to like stuff. I've been thinking about it with myself because it's like whose fault is it when it comes to things that my mental illness is affecting, right? Who do I how much do I blame myself, and how much do I put the blame onto the universe, and then what is the effect of each thing, right? And I guess I was just kind of wondering about like what the conclusion I was kind of heading towards is just like when we ask like are you a good person or whose fault like an act is, and I was thinking about like Bojack's horrible thing that he did to Todd and Todd relapsing, right? Well, we ask whose fault is it that Todd relapsed, right? there's there's more than one kind of answer that you can get from that. There's more than one question being asked there, right? So one is like who should feel bad about this, right? As in who should be punished, right? And to me, because I like kind of lean the whole determinism thing, I kind of lean to like no one should just feel bad. No one. I don't like believe in the idea of punishment is justice, or I try not to. But the other answer of like when we say whose fault is this is asking who needs to think about how they can become better so that the incident doesn't happen again, right? Then that seems to be more like practical, right? And that has a different answer where like when it comes to Bojack sabotaging Todd and Todd relapsing, they're both at fault for Todd relapsing, right? Because like Bojack, he did this terrible thing and he has to work on being better to not hurt his friends, right? But Todd also like relapsed into his addiction, and if he wants to prevent that from happening again, needs to do things so that he won't be in that situation again, right? But of course, I don't want Todd to feel bad for relapsing his addiction after his friend made him do that, right? Um, anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but the point is that it's an interesting question to think about, and I'm glad that Mighty Moo Quack brought it up, and it's something I want to keep thinking about as we go forward.
Yeah, me too. I honestly they didn't really give Todd any responsibility for what happened. Like I get like if they were trying to kind of parallel like maybe alcoholism with this video game thing, I don't know if that was the intention. But if it was like it does kind of check out that it was enabling and alcoholism is a disease and blah blah blah, but really nobody was forcing the only person that was forcing responsibility onto Todd was Todd, you know?
Right.
There wasn't any like, oh, Todd, like all that internal conflict that probably would have in real life happened in his head, that was not really put into the show at all. Because it was more just like, oh, it was Bojack's fault, which it kind of was, but yeah, kind of just what you were saying. They're just taking
Like,
responsibility.
yeah, I mean, okay, it's if the question is like who's gonna burn in hell for this, right?
It'd
It's
be Bojack, yeah.
It's obviously Bojack, right?
But Bojack wouldn't have even been able to do that unless if Todd had this issue that he hadn't dealt with. So
Yeah, like he didn't. Yeah, he was not that it's like yeah. The thing is, it sounds like I'm victim blaming for Todd not being able to resist playing
but he
this
has to
game, but
take
like
some, like at least a little
yeah,
responsibility for
the
it.
second he saw it, he picked it up and he bought it. Right? It was
Yeah, he could have
made to
he
be
could
extremely
have not
easy.
bought it.
Yes, yeah, and he could have been like, "This is too important. I know that if I own this game, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to ruin my chance at my rock opera being a good performance. So
Yeah.
I have to not buy it." Yeah, he wasn't able to do that,
Yeah.
and that's something that he needs to work on. Okay. Apologies for going on and on about that. It's something I'm sure that we can talk about in other episodes as well. What is the discussion question that you would like to pose for this week?
My discussion question, as I mentioned earlier, was does Mr. Peanutbutter, from what we know so far at least, does Mr. Peanutbutter or Bojack deserve Diane? And if they do, which one does and why? I'm actually extremely curious about how people feel about this. I'll try to formulate actually my own answer to this one and talk about it in the next episode, because I think I would need to think about it for a while. But yeah.
I already have my answer, which is neither of them. Neither of them. Diane deserves better.
I guess we haven't gotten to see a lot of Diane either, though. So that I guess that's part of it too.
Obviously, get yourself a boy that has the best of both worlds. That's what you need, and they're out there. So I mean, maybe not as rich as both of them are, but otherwise, yeah. Okay, that is all we have for y'all regarding the episode. Sebastian, can you tell them how they can reach us in the various ways that are possible?
Right. So with any questions or answers to our discussion question, we can be emailed at halfwaydowncast@gmail.com, or you can send a tweet to our Twitter at BHDcast.
That's right. If you want to also respond to the discussion question, it's going to be posted on the Bojack Horseman subreddit. In addition, you can also join the Doof Media Discord, which is free to join at doofmedia.com/discord. And jump on in and go into our channel and ask whatever questions you want, and we'll talk about it. But we have a lot of content all the time. Actually, a bonus content, which is this only available for $10 patrons and above. Some became public for people to try out to see if you like that sort of content. There was a bonus book club on a Neil Stephenson book, Termination Shock. So if you want to go see that and see some of the other episodes of that series of Freeman Bros, where Matt Freeman and his brother talk about, like, I don't know, nerdy things pretty much, and have a good time about it, you can go check that out and see if that's the sort of thing that you like to listen to. And yeah, there's a lot of other shows here at Doof Media. Please consider checking out one of the other ones. I think they are super, super cool. I listen to all of them except for the ones about stories that I have not read.
Yeah, I don't listen to Pale Reflections or anything because I haven't.
Of course.
I have not been able to delve too far into the Wild Bow stuff, although the stuff that I have read is really great. I do really enjoy the Doofcast, and of course, Do the Right Thing.
On a bow, Wild Bow work. It's finished, but it exists about worm.
Yes.
I did a podcast.
Yeah, Decomposing Worm.
And I really want to do a podcast on Twig one day, but we'll see what happens.
You should do that.
I need a co-host for it, so we'll see. Okay. All right. Okay, that's it. That's everything.
We've
thank you.
Lectured on
so
monogamy,
long. I'm
which
sober
was fun.
again.
I'm not. I've been drinking throughout this whole thing.
I ran out, and I'm not drinking any more honey liqueur.
This is unfair.
Gross. It's gross.
You're expecting me to live like this in communist America?
All right, Sebastian, please give us our animal fact of the day.
Today's fun animal fact of the week is that while South African anteaters do consume ants, their diets primarily consist of bark beetles.